Hello and welcome to Wrestling and Everything Coast to Coast with your host, Vicello Esquire, the Fight Doctor, Mike Leno, still Wrestling's premier photographer, and now exhausted Evan Ginsberg, author, writer, and all sorts of other things. So
Producer.
producer as well. So, gosh, guys, I need a shirt that says, "I just survived 2 days of SummerSlam, and all I got was this lousy T-shirt." Thankfully, I wasn't there. I was in Minnesota. It looks pretty miserable out there in the heat, but I mean, 8 hours of SummerSlam, and I watched probably about 90% of it for whatever reason. So,
well, Russ, let's go with you. Which was the better night? Let's go around the board and say, and then we could get into matches, because we're going to have to carry the slack because the Busted Open channel on Sirius XM now became
they were on. Monday. They were on they showed them at SummerSlam.
Well, they're in partnership with WWE, so the whole name change and format change is called WWE Radio. So there won't be any
they're now called the AEW stuff. They're now called the Force Suck.
No, it's a partnership. There wasn't a buyout, thankfully, but there can't be any AEW. So immediately Thunder Rosa had to quit as one of their roving co-hosts, and Coach Jonathan Coachman left because on his Monday through Thursday show, he'd been very critical of WWE, where he once worked. I don't get that, but because he's been so super critical, there must have been some heat there. He left. That was taken over by kind of a SI writer. So we need, because there's no AEW talk or MLW or Tommy Fierro's ISPW, which is one of the busiest in the Northeast, with not just almost weekly shows, but Fan Fest and 70s, 80s, 90s reunion things. So much cool stuff always happening in the Northeast. Our show and others will have to carry the slack so we can talk, as I said, AEW, GCW, Court Bowers, MLW, everything, so we don't have any encumbrances here. But all right, so Russ and Evan, what was the better night? Let's start with that, and then we can get into match breakdown. Last night or tonight?
Maybe I say tonight because it was shorter than yesterday.
Tonight was far better because the main event was great. There was nothing else but the 2 nights that were great.
But
I don't get though when you have a ref that gets knocked.
Hold on. But the bad matches from tonight were far worse than on night one. Night one was just a bunch of mediocre stuff. It was hit or miss, and the misses tonight were just like hold your stomach.
But that main event was memorably great, and that's basically all I want to see when I watch wrestling is great matches.
Not when there's 7 hours worth. You got to give us something more than that.
Oh, I was absolutely numb before the main event came on. 11 mediocre matches, and
no,
Gable,
you're too kind. You're too kind. No,
Gable,
the matches today were not mediocre. They were garbage. Garbage.
Well, what are you comparing to, Russ? What are you comparing them to? Like AEW is known for matches, but not storylines.
Monday Night Raw match or a SmackDown match that you get for free. I'm like talking the kind of stuff that I would list some of the matches tonight as some of the worst ones I've seen at any SummerSlam. Period. Not just for the night.
Okay, so I'm going to just say last night for me was a better night. I liked the Cody match. I liked
the ending sucked. The ending was horrible.
The EO, they opened with the EO. That was a lot of people like that match a lot. EO, who's obviously the more gifted athlete, but the title stayed with Liv Morgan. There was of course the Brock match was the Brock match. So most people figure coming out of this he'll come back like at Mania or Royal Rumble.
Do we need him back? Have we seen enough back suplexes to last you a lifetime? I have.
Well, that's what he does. But if you want the type of matches I think you're talking about, is I'm not so much into the storylines because they can get plotting. So for match quality, I always go with AEW. I never fast forward through hardly any of that whatsoever.
There was nothing on that last AEW pay-per-view that touched Reigns and Rollins tonight. But the
Yeah,
AEW
no, that was, I agree,
pay-per-view,
it's a great match, but then you have sort of the fluff. I don't know if you guys are fully aware of Danhausen, because I can see a lot of historian long-timers such as the both of you that would say, what the hell is going on with this guy?
Let me bring up the Danhausen match for a quick second. Okay, you just had a ladders match. Then you have the money on a pole match. What the hell? What kind of booking is that? It's so stupid.
Well, no, they're booking for children's. No, that's the whole point. The Danhausen character. They're selling a shitload of gimmicks, and Danhausen stuff with Halloween coming up in 2 months. So they're going to be marketing costumes and makeup.
But why do you book a pole match? I understand you're doing something for kids, but why do you book a pole match if you just had a ladder match? They're almost the same.
There was a lot of gimmick matches. There was a lot of, the 6-person like last night, with, and they purposely they're going to try to put the rocket ship a little bit as much as they can on LA Knight, the former Eli Drake. But the whole Danhausen thing is marketing to kids stuff. So,
I understand. It's the booking of the match.
But also,
itself.
then there was they did do a good job of actually showing TNA and NWA footage of Nick Aldis for that thing. And that was sort of a kind of a favor, but now he's going back to the GM role. So that was kind of
those were the 3 matches I thought were worth watching. The Aldis match, Gunther, that was a great match. I thought the Cody Rhodes up until the end match there the ending there was a good match, and then I liked the Rollins Reigns match.
Nobody can argue that's not a great match. But Evan, tell me what you thought of the Cody thing. The thing is, when refs, I was going to say that during at least the Roman thing, when a ref gets knocked out, why don't they just send down? It should be protocol to send down, even in storylines, another ref. So don't even waste time with all the shenanigans and shit that goes on when the ref is, working it like he's truly knocked out when he's perfectly fine. Don't you guys agree? I mean, it's like sometimes they do.
That was a terrible spot.
If you're inconsistent, if you don't send out a replacement ref when a ref gets knocked out, or you only do it 50% of the time, then it's like ridiculous.
As an old school fan, I just hate to see a very good match end with a screw job finish, which is what killed the Cody Rhodes match for me. As far as I'm concerned, it didn't touch Reigns and Rollins tonight. Didn't touch it because the business of that match.
Yeah, the business of that match though was now to rekindle and do Orton Cody the right way, because they fucked it up the last time with the involvement of those 2 non-wrestlers, Jelly Roll and whatever the other guy's name is, the ESPN announcer. And that was Pat. That was the shits. And I know Evan went to town on his reviewing of it. So Evan liked tonight's card, night 2, better because the main event was superior.
Just the main event was memorably great, and it was a long match, clean finish, excellent storyline, real emotion. It was everything you would want in a wrestling match, but the rest of the card was instantly forgettable. Gable winning was nice, but it was rushed, and then they had a product placement at the end. I mean, it was.
I didn't see that because I could only watch the highlights. A product placement? What did they have?
Yeah, the mascot came in and gave him something to drink, and he's drinking it on camera. It was just tacky. So, Gable's match was less than Reigns and Rollins' ring entrance. It was ridiculous.
And how long did it take those 4 girls to get to the ring? That was like a 20-minute intro for the 4 ladies to come in for that. By the way, I hate these 4-way matches. They all suck. I'm sorry. I haven't watched a four-way match
Well, okay,
ever,
Russ,
maybe.
the Chelsea Green story is they've been pushing, and so it's been organic that the fans want her to win. She's doing this ass-kissing thing with Tiffany.
It's the in-ring
Stratton.
booking that I've got problems with. It's the actual, what goes on in the match that just stinks. I really didn't
So Russ,
like...
what promotion today? You can name any. It doesn't have to be AW. What booking do you enjoy more than WWE booking?
Wrestling for charity! Hooray! Yes.
Okay, it could be an indie, a Northern California indie you're involved with. That's fine. I happen to like AEW. Evan, where are you on AEW lately? Do you enjoy?
I enjoy AEW, but they just don't learn from their flaws. You don't need a 5-hour pay-per-view. You don't need multi-man matches one after another.
And you don't need more titles than you have wrestlers.
Yeah, I've sat at AEW pay-per-views live. You get there, let's say 6:30 after whatever commuting you're doing and lines and bathrooms, and by the time you're there, and then you're sitting down at 6:30 and you're leaving at midnight, literally.
Or sometimes past midnight.
Sometimes past midnight.
Yeah.
And did you see how far away some of the fans were at the SummerSlam when they were sitting up at the top?
But we're talking AEW. So my point being, unless it's something extraordinary, like I saw Swerve Strickland and Ospreay live, unless it's something great, you're sitting there numb after 5-6 hours. And,
well, the same way after today. I really felt that,
I was absolutely numb until Reigns and Rollins came in, and then it was just so good, it like woke me up, it was great. So, look, both of these are flawed promotions, and ironically, both of them have arguably among the greatest talent bases in the history of wrestling, squandering all this great talent. You had 11 matches with mostly great wrestlers not having great matches until Rollins and Reigns came out.
What did you guys think of Oba Brock? So Russ didn't care for it because
let me say how disappointed I was in that one. Why do you bring a cell into a match and absolutely do not use the cage whatsoever for anything? It was pointless. It's pointless.
Well, those guys can't do. It's not Jeff Hardy who can climb to the top of the cage and do a dive, a swanton bomb.
They just have a straight cage match instead of a Hell in a Cell.
Evan's right. This was the thing to finally put. It was the rubber match, the third of the 3 matches, each one and one apiece, and the point what we call the business of the match was to have Brock pass the torch to Oba.
But you bring in a cage. For what reason? You bring in a cage, why? Because these guys are so savage and out of control. No, but there's still a thought process to booking a cage match. It's getting me upset here because you're missing why the booking was so wrong on all of this.
We were raised, and Evan will agree with this. Vince McMahon Sr. ran a smart type, a little predictable, but Bruno might have, if it was a really great worker like Spiris Arion, Don Leo Jonathan, he might have a 3-match series, and they would all be, the premier ones would be at MSG, and there would be no decisive, or Bruno might have lost one, the match stopped on blood, and then they have a cage match at the end to blow off the feud. And that was logical, and that was, I think, what you guys are looking for, because that's what we were raised on.
Back me up on this. Before a cage match like that, they would have some kind of build up to the feud where these guys are so out of control, you can't keep them in a ring together. You've got to have
or outside interference if there's others. Tag team partners, managers.
If guys were when the bloodline would interfere all the time, then yes, you would. The cage has a purpose. But Heyman hasn't interfered in a match in a long time. He's beyond that kind of bumping, which I can understand, okay? So he's just there to just bark.
Well, he has twice this year. He's taken on TV on Monday Raw, has taken bumps and a massive chair shot where he then took a face flat bump.
Well,
Face
obviously, but he hasn't been such an interfering like guy, like in the old days of managers where they interfered all the time and always got beaten up. He doesn't. That's just a
well, managers are a lost art on the big promotions. There's really Don Callis, who I think actually is a lot more entertaining for me than Heyman because he does get involved and cheats and. But
I wish Danhausen would go be a manager. He would be so much more effective to me because his in-ring work is not very good. So,
he's been working on the indies for, 15, 16 years?
He's not bad in the ring. They just have him doing comedy, though, mostly.
Yeah.
So why not be a manager then? I mean, I think he could do more, especially for guys
mostly he's doing skits. This is like...
Right.
He does very few matches, maybe a match every other month.
When you get over that way, just go ahead and be a manager. And it would be great to see him revitalize that. But anyway, getting back to the Femi versus Lesnar match. Yeah, I really felt like the whole thing was them going through the motions on it, and that there wasn't that kind of like emotionality. Mainly because you could just sort of see in Lesnar's eyes during the whole match, like, I got to do the job and I'll come back a year from now and get another giant payday that equals like what the entire rest of the roster makes. I'll make in one match.
He is in great shape, jacked at 49, whatever I think they said he's 49. He'll be back, but this was in front of his hometown in Minnesota. They did a nice in the pre-show. I really watched and focused on the pre-show where they gave this list of like 14, 15 wrestlers, starting with Vern Gagne, then Larry Hennig, all the way up to Medusa, who came out of Robbinsdale High, amateur wrestling program. And there were, a ton of guys, not to mention that most of them were trained by Eddie Sharkey right there for Vern Gagne. But Eddie Sharkey, trained everybody. Sean Waltman,
but
the Road Warriors, Rick
my point
Rude.
was don't tease the audience with a match, with a cage match, and don't use the cage. Just I don't care if that's the way you want to blow off the computer, whatever. Use the cage in some spots, or just don't bring it in, because otherwise it's like teasing someone with a nice dessert. You're like, oh, here's this wonderful thing, this cage. It's going to be exciting. Oh, but we're not going to use it. It's there just to look at. It's like, what the hell? That's lousy. And again, I think that the four-way matches that were booked tonight were really lazy.
Well, the women's,
what
was it 5 or 6 women in that one, the Chelsea Green one?
Well, when you have the other two ladies come in at the, to interfere at the end, yeah, you could say.
And then you want to look at stupidity. They book the Bellas to turn on Paige, Saraya, and
Terrible
then
match.
the one gets hurt. I really don't.
Yeah, Brady.
I groaned when the Bellas came back because they've never, in my opinion, they're just not.
Who wanted them back?
The young girls, the 20-somethings, that also like Paige.
Bring up your younger
They're not as
stars.
particular. But because I got to leave early, I want to ask Evan though about the last Redemption, the AEW pay-per-view, and maybe Omega against Kevin, what's his face, wasn't. Certainly nowhere near what Ospreay and Omega is going to be. But Evan, were there some things you liked at Redemption? I didn't see your review of it yet from last week.
I sent it in my email blast. You should have got it.
What can you remember? But is there anything that stood out from that one? Did you like the Omega match?
It felt like their version of a B pay-per-view. There wasn't a single match I ranked 4 stars or above. It was all solid matches, but predictable. Fletcher and Bandito was very good. Meltzer gave it 5 stars. I didn't give it anywhere near that. It was you knew who was going to win. Predictability isn't a positive, and Omega and Knight was good, but you knew who was going to win because Omega's going to headline in Wembley. So.
Yeah.
It felt like an unnecessary pay-per-view, and it didn't have anything that touched Swerve and Ospreay. That was a masterpiece. So it's just like it's honestly overkill with the wrestling. There's too many pay-per-views or premium live events, whatever you want to call it. There's too much TV. I don't need to watch wrestling 24/7. I have other interests. It's,
I think that they're doing a disservice. Hunter said that, now we have product so people around the world can just watch wrestling 24/7. Well, no, you're going to stifle their interest in music or culture, things like that, or anything non-wrestling. You're not even giving them time.
I watched 2 nights of WWE this weekend. I was numb. I don't need to watch it 24/7. And now Reigns and Rollins salvaged the weekend. I mean, otherwise it would have been a waste of a weekend.
And now there's the WWE Club you can join. How about that?
Yeah, you have to pay. You have to pay for it.
Exactly, you have to pay.
So you could get merch in advance.
Yeah.
Well, they did. One thing I'm going to say to be positive is they're releasing 2 finally Cyndi Lauper Mattel figures. One is a 3-pack that's going to be coming out first in a couple of months, completely sold out, I guess, within hours of the first day that it was offered this week. Yeah, Lou Albano. Yeah, I've been talking to him about it. He asked me if you can send me the link to the show he did, because he's going to ask. I gave him a list of questions to ask Cyndi. The guy that we had on, I don't know if you were on. It's the guy who was on Collector's Call, the MeTV show, and I'm in touch. I've been trying to get Lisa Whelchel, who was on that 80s show, to be on this show with us. She's the host of it. Lisa Whelchel, she was the spoiled rich girl on that spin-off from Different Strokes. You remember, with Mrs. Garrett, with these, teaching an all-girls school. Facts of Life.
Joe Salg.
Yeah, Joe Salg, who runs, he's converted his house into the Cyndi Lauper Museum. So we were talking about the Cyndi Lauper's going to be in a 3-pack with Albano and Piper, to recreate that really looks great. But I said, okay, my first question for her is, how do you feel? You did the last 2 years, she's done like residencies, particularly this year in Vegas. Perfect timing to put into the WWE Hall of Fame, even though there's still no physical Hall of Fame, to put her in. She had a residency there this April when they were there. They didn't even contact her. She should have gone in. If it wasn't for her lending her credibility and then the whole rock and wrestling thing taking off, and Hogan wouldn't have gotten off. None of that stuff would have happened for Vince Jr. if it wasn't for Cyndi Lauper lending her cred. And before she even got on WWE TV, January of 1984, she had Hogan like bodyguard her at 2 the Grammys and some other American Music Awards. He came in it was her bodyguard. That got WWF off the ground, and that happened when he left Gagne for Vince Jr. So she should have been in.
I was at the WWE Hall of Fame is located in parts unknown, where the masked wrestlers, the masked wives,
they still view it as an honor. Yeah, it's stupid. They get the Super Bowl type ring. It's not like Iowa or upstate New York. Those are true physical Hall of Fames. People can go, learn things, enjoy, look at historic items, but it's still an honor to them, and it feels like a snub. Like people were saying, oh God, she's going to get into the WWE Hall of Fame before the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. No, last year she finally got, last September, into the Rock Hall of Fame. She's still not in the WWE Hall of Fame, and if it weren't for Bruno, and then later, to a much smaller extent, but a huge extent, Lauper. If it wasn't for Bruno, there would be no WWF, WWE. And if it wasn't for Cyndi Lauper, all of this stuff and this billion-dollar juggernaut wouldn't be possible. She lent her cred. She was like Madonna coming in and saying she loved wrestling. She put all the wrestlers, starting with Albano and all these music videos. Like there's like 15 WWE wrestlers or WWF ones, starting with Piper, Blassie, Moolah in Ghoulies, that the song she did for the movie. They're all in it, including Albano, Iron Sheik, and she talks about wrestling. She's at the Rock Hall of Fame. Evan, you both know. We talked about it. She spoke about 3-4 minutes about her love of wrestling, and people told her, oh, if you say you love wrestling, you get involved with it, it might hurt your career. She said she just loved it. She put over Albano, Piper, Blassie, and even Vince to a certain extent. So Evan and I know what a great person she is, because we were standing there with her. How long was that? Like 45 minutes, 40 minutes?
we
really gave us some time.
we just walked up to her, can we interview you? Nothing scheduled. She was like, sure.
Well, she was at the Virgin Megastore in
yeah,
San
but I'm just
Francisco.
saying, it was like she couldn't be any nicer.
She was there for three hours before her concert, her evening concert, like 9 p.m. was going to be on the roof of, Virgin Megastore when it opened. It's San Francisco store. I knew, because I brought my cassette recorder. I knew we had to go give it a shot, and we did it, and it was a huge deal. And I still think she's one of the nicest celebs. Evan's met more celebrities, but I think she's one of the nicest people ever. She gave us that time. She didn't say no to any question, and I've always loved her music even before meeting her. So the fact she's sold quicker. So even the second Cyndi Lauper figure, which I think is going to be by itself or maybe with another, with Wendy Richter, sold out. They haven't even started producing them. Completely, all the lots are sold out, which is, she's beating many wrestlers.
Johnny Valiant got a check for a action figure, and it never came out.
Aw.
Yeah.
Well, they're re-releasing.
He deserved it. I think it would be a huge deal. So I hope those two guys, Matt, what's his face, Cardona, he actually loves action figures so much he created with his best friend wrestler an action figure company. Spazzing on the name right now, but if they had a Valiant Brothers tag team action figure set,
really,
I think we'd all go berserk. I think that would be amazing, and throw in one additional one with Captain Lou and the Valiants too.
So you're saying they should make one? They don't have one.
Yes, I'm going to.
No, but that sort of stuff is getting hot now. The figures, as I said, the WWE is issuing a new line of action figures now.
Well, they've got a whole LJN. They got a ton of LJNs. They're supposed to allegedly have an Andy Kaufman one. They released the Andy Kaufman with a Lawler figure that I have somewhere, but that'll be funny to see him. So they've brought that thing back to.
It's the one way they're commemorating WWE history is through the video games and the figures. That's like the one way anyone knows who any of these people are now.
And I've got plenty of merch. People can autograph pictures. Drop me a line. I'll send you a list.
Look at his pictures he's got behind him. A Portland Roddy Piper classic belt.
Roddy Piper, James Brown, Enter the Dragon, me with Mickey and the Wrestler, and that's Jimmy Valiant, a promotional picture from Jimmy for his camp. Yeah.
How is Jimmy doing? I haven't talked to him in a couple of years.
Jimmy's good. I saw him a few months ago. Guy's in his mid-80s. The guy's doing great. He's out doing autograph signings. He wrestled a match this year.
He is so amazing. There are more truly nice people. Jimmy Valiant is like one of them, and Leilani Kai, who I'll nag and get her on here.
I'm a big fan of her on Facebook.
Who is?
I'm a big fan of her. I'm a big fan of Leilani Kai on Facebook because she posts a lot, and she posts some very intimate stories about her life in wrestling and working with Moolah. And I mean, she's not.
But she's got some really great. If she's at a fan fest, with Wayne Ferris, they'll talk about history. Someone will film it, and it is pretty neat that these people that it wasn't that long ago that they stopped wrestling, that they just completely love history. They love talking 50s, 60s, 70s history, and there's not a whole lot of folks.
No, the WWE doesn't spend any time commemorating it, or barely any time commemorating it. It's up to other people to discover the history of what went on in the 70s.
There are folks, they haven't honored Art Thomas or Dick the Bruiser and the Crusher, I don't believe, in their Hall of Fame. Yet they have Stephanie McMahon go in, which I really
ground. The Bella Twins.
Hey, speaking of that, okay. So here was the drama online this weekend.
Please.
So America the Beautiful was sung by, of course, Triple H and Stephanie's daughter. Because in Minnesota, where Prince lived and where some of the greatest musicians in the world live, they couldn't find anybody else but their daughter to, for the gig. So many of us said that nepotism is wrong. You get the best person for the job, okay? So somehow this turned into you're bullies because it's just a child. So I said, this child one day will inherit a $400 million fortune. Her parents have ties to the President of the United States. She's going to stroll into a $600,000 a year job like Chelsea Clinton did. For those of
It'll
you,
probably be worth her share will probably be worth billions of dollars at that point, which is
remember her grandma Linda is
help screw up this country.
Trump,
Yeah,
helping screw up the education
but
thing that she's in charge
here's my
of.
point. It's not even about politics. It's about nepotism. I give the kid credit. She got up there. She remembered the words. She did okay. She rose to the occasion. But somewhere in Minnesota, there's a poor kid with nothing but a great voice and a dream. And that kid should have got the shot.
we know that's never.
I didn't know that was the daughter at first, and I go, why isn't Princess Wendy and Lisa getting up there? That would be so much more appropriate.
My point. It's
the people would have gone out of their
nepotism.
minds. Don't you think they would have gone out of their minds?
Yes, and ironically, Triple H at the post SummerSlam Night 1 press conference or whatever it was, he's saying how wrestlers have to earn their spot. And so I'm like, what was the vetting process for Stephanie McMahon's talk show on the WWE programming? What was the vetting process for that?
Who is her co-host? Do they ever even say who her co-host? She just sits there.
I have no idea. My point being, if it's supposed to be about talent, there's 50,000, literally 50,000 wrestling shows. You can't tell me nobody was more qualified than Stephanie McMahon to do that show. Come on.
But she's qualified because, her last name is McMahon. That's the qualification.
But by me being one of many people that pointed out the nepotism in this, we were somehow the villains picking on a kid. And I'm
in your defense, you said nothing about her performance. You said nothing personal about her, or that, what an ugly kid, or, what a crappy voice.
I would never say that.
No, I'm saying you didn't say any of those things, and yet you're still being seen as trying to be a bully because you want somebody else who can't get that opportunity to have the opportunity.
More appropriate. Anybody from Prince's band would have been more appropriate. Darius Ruckert, does the guy have any Minnesota ties? He was fine. He wasn't overly, and he got better at the end. He said when they were interviewing prior to, he was nervous like he was at some other huge event. But at least the guy's a name entertainer. It's like Hogan's daughter, Brooke, when he was pushing her, particularly on the reality show, her singing career.
Like royalty, born into being a movie star, Will Smith's kid. You can't tell me there's not better actors than this guy's kids. Come on. I mean...
Yeah, or Bronny James, getting playing time for the LA Lakers, because LeBron...
LeBron leaves the team after they kissed his ass and allowed his son to play. It was just not that great.
He was terrible. He was terrible. Look, it goes all the way back to Greg Gagne, who looked like he should have been.
No. It goes to Nick Goulas' son.
I hated Greg Gagne. It was one of my all-time least favorite wrestlers.
No. It's Nick Goulas, the promoter before Jerry Jarrett in Memphis. His son, George, worst, shittiest.
We can all agree David Bruno Sammartino was.
No, he was.
David Sammartino was okay. He wasn't bad.
Yeah, he was fine. Another shitty one. Oh God, there have been some that have been really pretty awful.
Well, David Flair was not very good in the ring. I never was convinced.
No, and the last two, God rest their soul, Chris and Mike Von Erich Atkinson.
Yeah.
weren't, because they just weren't.
They didn't want to be in it.
One was ailing. Yeah, one was already ill and it affected his growth, and then the other one just wasn't a natural athlete. I mean, it's just horrific, that thing.
I honestly think Greg Gagne's gotten a raw deal because I saw him live several times.
The High Flyers were a good tag team. Singles match, he wasn't believable, like against having him challenge in a main event Nick Bockwinkel. That I agree with people on.
Or Bruiser Brody, or and you were just totally
Stan Hansen.
Crusher Blackwell. You just know that if it wasn't for his dad running the Fed, he would just get absolutely squashed by these guys.
He was a sharp guy.
Good team.
Oh, Angelo Mosca's son was horrific in Toronto, pretty much Toronto. There've been some wrestlers, but he wasn't like the son of a promoter or anything like that.
Nick Kaninsky wasn't a bad wrestler.
No, and Gene had two sons that wrestled. I forget the other one. Was not bad at all. And
tie it back into
but wait, Stu Hart, all of his kids, pretty damn amazing. Owen and Brett to start with, and then Ross and Bruce.
To tie it back into SummerSlam, I think, unfortunately, the way that Cody Rhodes just lost that match, he's kind of like going to be working his way back down to like the the whole thing now is to move him laterally or slightly below laterally with Randy Orton. So he's going to be because they fucked that match up a couple of months ago or whatever it was it Mania? They really ruined. They didn't have the storytelling. They got the other goofs involved, as we discussed. As Russ reminded me, the other guy's name, Pat McAfee. Yeah, now they can do it right with the history between the two. But so whatever. I don't know who Roman's going to face now. But that's going to take Cody Rhodes away from any kind of title contention. So this whole
for the time being, because he's been a slight heel, building and building. Getting booed now. People are kind of sick of the goody two shoes Cena thing. So if he doesn't turn, he's at least getting some grit in him. But if he doesn't turn full on heel, and perhaps after this series with Orton, joins Orton and. That's
if
probably
anything,
where the money
that's going to take him further away from title contention. So, I think
not if he turns heel. If he turns heel, then it's totally a fresh, brand new wrestler.
But I don't think you're going to see him being part of the main event of any WrestleManias or SummerSlams for quite some time. I think that they're going to.
But look at Charlotte. Charlotte Flair. She was always in title contention. Always had the straps. And then fans started booing her and giving her a hard time about, ridiculous stuff and making her suicidal. And it was horrific. And then she says, I'm cool with being a tag team with my legit best friend. And it lightened her up to the audience, and they love her now. And she is constantly still viewed with high regard, 'cause she is a great wrestler. So that's been a positive for her. She hasn't been in a singles title contention really all year, except for, say, this interim ladder match stuff or whatever.
And is anyone excited that we're going to have to see Baron Corbin that much more now with the U.S. title?
No, I love Trick Williams.
Much of him to begin with.
No,
I know. Now we're going to have to see him
Trick
every week.
Williams is money. Actually, I like him more than Obafemi because he can cut a promo. He's good in the ring. He's colorful. He has the best entrance. Spinning on that little.
It was the worst match of the night.
Yeah, well, I'm not the biggest Baron Corbin fan, but Trick Williams. They should have had him against the guy that he was teaming with in NXT. The guy, he has always great matches. What's the guy's name? Carmelo Hayes. That would have been a Royal or a SummerSlam great match. For me, if you've watched them work together,
we said we saw Baron Corbin getting over. It was the way he got over really made Trick look weak. By the way, I also thought the way that Liv beat Oni I
think people wanted to see Io win. You kind of have to listen to your audience. They did that with Chelsea Green tonight, but last night they should have let Io go.
The way they made Io look weak. That was a weak finish. It was not something that, the fans, I think, thought was really worthy of, like, taking her out of title contention, having her, lose in that fashion. And the fans wanted to see a better match. I didn't like seeing that. And I also didn't like the fact that you had the Cody Rhodes CM Punk match as not the main event on the first night, and instead you had the Lesnar.
Yeah, but that was because of the cage and because of the passing of the torch. So normally, every once in a while, like Bully Ray says, every once in a while you don't have to have it. But we old timers and raised right believe the world title match should be the main event last match. But because all the shit having to bring down the cage, which sadly wasn't even used. It wasn't even used.
No.
It wasn't even used.
So
Yeah,
you put that on, or what you do is you can put that one on right before mid card, where you have a break, like you bring the cage down, then you have an intermission, you pull the cage up, and then everything goes as normal. I didn't like that booking. I just thought that the first night had so much unevenness, but overall it was mediocre. And in the second night,
it was stacked on paper. I've got to go. I was going to leave it a half hour after. Promised my wife I'd watch Devil Wears Prada 2 with her. So I'm going to leave you guys to argue the rest. No, I don't think so. I like Anne Hathaway. She's I like all of and Stanley Tucci. That guy can do no wrong in my book. That guy is food and wine. He's like 5 stars, 10 out of 5 Meltzer stars for Stanley Tucci in terms of food, wine, and then acting as his tertiary talent. So you guys have a great rest of the show.
All right,
everybody, brush and floss.
Thank you.
Yes.
Okay.
So, I want to get in. Well, and then you also had that discussion. Hold on, let's see. Mike is there. He goes. So you were having that discussion with that guy
the
from.
Screen's still on.
It's a good question. Let's see. Let me remove it. There we go. Sometimes it just automatically goes, and then other times I have to manually yank it away. That's technology for you. But anyway, a couple of things. I mean, I really just thought that the whole idea behind a lot of these matches were just terrible. And by the way, I wanted to point out 7 hours worth of wrestling, and Braun Breaker wasn't a part of any of this. What's the deal? Is he hurt?
I think that just not pushing him as hard.
You couldn't find one place for him to be in.
I mean, why would you put Gunther twice and let him lose the second night? You could have put Breaker or somebody else in that spot.
Absolutely. Well, the 4-ways are so lazy, and that I mean, okay, yes, we're happy that Kevin Owens is back. I think, right?
Yeah.
Although he looked like he aged like 50 years in the time that he was last.
Physically, body-wise, he looked like he was in better shape. He wasn't as heavy.
No, but that gray beard of his makes him look like.
Yeah, I don't understand the whole wrestler gray beard thing. I mean, Ciampa, he just looks like a colorful character with the white beard. But why look 10 years older than you are if you're an athlete? It makes Edge. It just makes him look old.
And speaking of old, they showed Dan Spivey during the broadcast.
But he's not wrestling.
No, he's not wrestling. I was surprised he was walking. He looks like a human. I mean, I know everybody gets old, but when I saw him, I was like, oh my God, that's Dan Spivey. He looked like he was like 95 years old. He's been, as they say, ridden hard and put away wet.
I had the other week an indie wrestler mock my appearance because we disagreed on something wrestling related, and I mentioned this on the show before. I'm a senior citizen, so these guys could kiss my ass. I mean, they should only look this good when they're a senior citizen.
Oh, I bet they couldn't go through 1/2 of one of your Tai Chi practices.
I was at the gym and at Tai Chi this morning. We got up to 92-year-olds throwing kicks, doing, balancing on one leg. I mean, it's amazing. 92 years old, and a 25 or 30-year-old athlete, because gasp, disagree on wrestling, feels it's okay to mock your appearance. It's amazing.
Well, it's the keyboard warriors, that stand up and try to act really, really tough.
And inevitably, it's because they're defending the lovely WWE, a greedy, ruthless billion-dollar corporation. That's why they get angry at me, because I call them out on,
And we look at the current political discourse where it's okay now to just berate people and to attack them physically, or about their, appearance or anything like that, because if you don't have anything of substance to say, go ahead and just slam someone, and say, I'm right, you're wrong because you don't look good,
First of all, beauty's in the eye of the beholder. And secondly, I find it interesting that on social media, and I'm not going to get into a whole political discussion, but I see one person after another posting, quote, I have no empathy for someone. I have no sympathy for someone. Like this is a point of pride. And empathy and sympathy are qualities. They're not weaknesses. If this civilization collapses, it's going to be because people, have no human empathy and they don't care about anybody except themselves or their immediate family. And
not even their immediate family, just themselves. There's plenty of those that just think about themselves.
I see it time and time again. They'll say, quote, I have no empathy. Whatever the scenario is.
But people have always been that way. Even since the dawn of time. And you got to find the people that do care, that do matter, and band together with them and help, gird yourself against the ones that would drag you down into the nothingness that their lives are all about.
I tell people all the time, surround yourself with mutually supportive friends and family that love and respect you and are there for you, not just in good times. Here's how you learn who your friends are. It's that person that'll visit you in the hospital, the person that'll be there when you really, really need them. Clicking like on a post doesn't make this person your dear friend, It
helps you. There's a lot of friends who don't even do that much. It's your birthday and they don't even, bother to say, happy birthday, which,
sometimes people don't remember
words.
I don't remember more than 2 or 3 people's birthdays. That's,
No, Facebook will always remind you, though, unless the people take their birthday off of Facebook, and then they can't get all upset that nobody said happy birthday. But usually you get some kind of a notification that you've got,
if
somebody's birthday.
If you notice the notification, many times I don't.
You wish me happy birthday, so I don't think you're off the hook. But I'm saying for some people, they know that a quote unquote friend's birthday, and they can't. And the irony is that Facebook even pre-populates the birthday message. So you don't even have to type happy birthday.
You just
click on a balloon and then hit send and it goes. So it's 2 clicks. So all you have to do to make somebody's day is to do 2 clicks on Facebook. And a hell of a lot of people won't do that.
People take self-involvement to an art form. And it's amazing. Really, when all is said and done, what's important in life are friends, family, following your muse, helping people, and trying to attain some level of spirituality or calm. It does not have to be formal religion, whatever the case may be.
Don't forget your pets.
And pets. I love my pets. Believe me, they're like family. You know, there have been stories where people have died running into burning houses to save their pets, or vice versa. The pets running in to the fire to pull out the owner, and they've died from smoke inhalation or whatever. There's an amazing bond between people and their pets, and you know, there's a great book. I don't know if you're aware of it, but you should check it out. It's called The Book of Questions. It was a bestseller.
Yes, I've heard of it.
And it's just questions, no answers.
Yeah.
So one of the questions, you're a parent, so don't answer this because it'll get heat for you. One of the questions is you're on a boat, the boat capsizes, you're with your spouse and your child. Who do you save?
I have twins,
Okay, well,
so that makes
if
it
it's
even more
one-
challenging.
if it's one spouse and one kid, who do you save? And what's interesting is the women always say the kid. The men sometimes say the spouse.
Yeah,
That's
no.
interesting.
No,
but I'm just saying
I save my
sometimes.
kids. I will save my kids.
So here's a good question. You're on a boat and you're with your dog and an ex-girlfriend or boyfriend. Who do you save? A lot of people are going to save the dog.
Oh yeah. Depending on which ex it is, yes. The answer would be yes.
Yeah.
You know, a few of them I'm still friendly with, so maybe it's a toss up, or like maybe see if the dog could
Paddle.
a dog paddle or
That's right.
play out of it. But anyway, I wanted to do, while we have a couple minutes here, and we've beaten SummerSlam death. I mean, overall, maybe I give it a 5.5, and that's, I think, because it got the final match was so good. If he took that match out of it, I would have given it maybe like a 1.5 stars.
Yeah, we're exactly on the same page. I gave night 1 a 5, and I gave night 2 a 7.5, just because the main event was so great. So if you divided the two, you're saying 5.5, I'm saying 6 and change. So we're right there. And
Yeah.
it was utterly mediocre, except for the one great main event tonight. So
And
why
we
can't
have
you
our-
put together two
we
nights
have that
of great
one-
wrestling?
you have that one guy from Minnesota who spent a lot of money to go both nights with his family. I mean, I hope he felt that it was worth it, but if I had gone and spent that kind of money, I would be really dissatisfied. And I wouldn't spend that kind of money on something like this, because I knew going into it, didn't look like a great card. And lo and behold, the card didn't deliver. So I'm waiting to be surprised.
If I spent anything more than $100, $125, $150 for the two nights, I would have felt ripped off. It was basically a one match SummerSlam that
I
tonight.
would rather they just take both nights and combine them into one night. I think there's 2 nights worth of things, which soon we're going to see every single WWE event is going to take up 2 nights. I mean, that's pretty much the trend of it now. And it just is so much overkill, and so many forgettable matches that are poorly booked, matches that don't have the edge in them that is exciting, and all of it for one well-booked match is ridiculous.
If you put $1 million cash in front of me right now, I could not name all 12 matches, especially the multi-man and multi-women matches. It's already, like my mother used to say, a piece of fluff. It's like forgotten.
Sure. And it's for 7 hours worth of wrestling to wind up like that, plus the countless pre-show and post-show.
I don't watch any of that. I've
No. I mean, I had the pre-show on while I was like cleaning the house, kind of thing. It's just on in the background. I didn't actually watch it.
It's an old James Brown song. I love James Brown. Talking loud and saying nothing. That's the pre-show and the post-show.
I agree. So while we have a couple minutes, I'd like to do a quick double movie review that I posted on my Facebook site. But I'd like to, first of all, I want to talk about Lee Cronin's The Mummy.
I didn't see it.
Don't. That's my one word review of that is don't.
Yeah.
But I want to say why. Okay, because this sort of thing bugs me because it's kind of like wrestling booking in a way. If you can look at the whole thing, is it starts off, and believe me, I am not spoiling anything. So if something's already spoiled, I can't ruin it. And it got a 47 on Metacritic. So it's not one of the better movies out there. But my wife wanted to see it, and I was like, all right, let's just download and see what it is. So the first 15 minutes of the movie start off with kind of this mummy thing where they open up this mummy's tomb and they get cursed. And this
was Danhausen in it?
It would have been so much more entertaining if Danhausen had been in it. If they'd opened the tomb up and Danhausen had
yes.
That would have been funny. That would have been, there's no humor in the film at all. It's not funny at all. And what happens is then this like lady who gets beaten up by the mummy then shows up as like kind of this witch that curses this child, and then the child disappears for 8 years, and then the child comes back, and the child basically from that point forward is just Exorcist 2026. So the mummy is just an excuse to have the Exorcist type film tacked on to 10 minutes or 15 minutes of this quote unquote mummy thing. And totally repulsive. I mean, it's repulsive because why do you use the good name? And I'm, not trying to disparage monster fans out there, but the good name of the mummy, to use that as a brand. Because it is a brand. I mean, the original Boris Karloff mummy, goes back to
early 30s.
Yeah, early 30s. So there's a name behind that, but you just use it as like a little teaser. Kind of like it reminds me of the Cage Match, to be honest with you, where you're teasing something and you're saying, oh, the mummy's going to be part of this film, and then 10 minutes in, you're never seeing that mummy again. There's nothing to do with it. It's just there for name only.
See, what you need is a mashup where a mummy goes into Hell in the Cell and Danhausen jumps in and curses everybody. Just throw it all together.
Do you remember the wrestling mummy, by the way?
Yeah.
Oh, that was really awful. But you know what? More entertaining than this movie was. After 45 minutes or maybe an hour, I was just like, that's it. I mean, it's funny because when I was younger, I watched every single movie all the way through. If I went to the theater, I sat through every single movie, no matter how bad it was, except for one movie. Want to guess what that one is? I've told you this before. It was Mother Jugs and Speed. Literally, my mom was like, she dropped us off in a small park at a small movie theater, and she had to go through like this big parking lot to get out. And like we went in, we saw like the first 15 minutes of it, and she was still trying to get out of the parking lot, and we caught her like just as she was leaving, like out of the parking lot. We're like, don't leave, yeah. We don't want to watch this movie anymore.
I'm so old, I could tell you the cast: Raquel Welch, Bill Cosby, Robert Culp.
I was too young to appreciate Raquel Welch, for the reasons you'd appreciate Raquel Welch.
Read my book, Grindhouse, Hard House, and Wrestling Flicks, if you like B movies and Grindhouse.
So moving on, a couple minutes here, I'd like to talk about the exact opposite of Lee Cronin's Mummy, and that is Backrooms. I thought Backrooms was phenomenal for the fact it was a low-budget movie.
And a 20-year-old made it.
And it's unpretentious, and it's all the things that the Mummy tries to be, but absolutely fails at, because it's just hitting you in the Mummy punches you in the face with gore, like people's skin peeling off, people vomiting up cockroaches or eating them, scorpions. And eyeballs being ripped out and people, festering with disease and all this stuff. Backrooms doesn't have any of that. Didn't have the budget for it. But really, you know, when you don't have that budget, you have to dig deeper into people's minds to make it scary. Okay? That's when you have somebody that's treating you like you're smart, like you're not an idiot, that you don't have to be spoon
I
fed.
saw Backrooms. Backrooms is an interesting film.
It is. It is. It's not perfect, okay? I wouldn't say that every bit of it is a gem. It's not, you know, but
It could have been 20 minutes tighter, shorter, but it's worth
it's only
seeing.
an hour and 50 minutes. Okay?
Huh?
It's only an hour and 50 minutes. Now, conversely, The Mummy is 2 hours and like 40 minutes long.
Wow.
So when I got an hour into it, I was like, oh my God, there's another hour and 40 minutes of this crap?
Yeah.
There's no way I'm sitting through all this. At least the Backrooms kind of makes their point and is done with it. There's nothing, you know, no after the credits, like cute little sequence after that, you know. It just leaves with its point that it makes. And yes, it's an obscure point, and you have to really think about it. I haven't rewound and watched an ending like that and multiple times since the Blair Witch Project. Okay.
By the end of the Mummy, you felt like you had been dead for 2,000 years.
Well, what I wanted to do was take bandages and wrap them over my eyes.
Yeah.
You know, to keep myself from having
We
to watch.
should do like Siskel and Ebert, and no, that's a funny line you just used.
Well, trust me, if you ever watch that movie, you'll say, "Oh yeah, Russ was right about that." But I want to commend Backrooms and congratulate it and kind of say, like, it does for films, kind of what a good indie wrestling fed does for wrestling. You know, when a good indie wrestling fed raises the bar and says, you know what, we didn't need the pyro, we didn't need the 100-foot, you know, jumbotron, we didn't need, you know, the incessant advertising. And by the way,
we didn't need to cut Penta and Chad Gable short so we could have a sing along with Seth Rollins.
And are you at all tired, by the way, of seeing a big move and then have them break into the match to show you the move that you just saw? I'm tired of that.
I don't mind that so much. I just think when you're watching TV, not a pay-per-view, TV, and they cut into the main event with 3 minutes of commercials, then another break with commercials, that kills the flow of the match.
Well, sure, but I'm saying tonight, one thing I didn't really like about the SummerSlam production is that they kept breaking. You couldn't just watch the match all the way through. It was always an instant replay immediately right after anything of any significance happened. And I also didn't like how Rollins and Reigns were talking in the ring to each other. I didn't like that. You know, I don't like to see the guys having just lying there on the mat, having a conversation with each other. That's not.
Well, that was the storyline, but
I know that's the only negative stuff I have to say about that match. Otherwise, everything else about it, maybe 3 spears at the end to make it the final thing. I'm not sure how thrilled I was at that being the actual outcome, but compared to a screw job outcome, because I kept waiting for the Bloodline to show up,
yeah.
And I was like, oh, you know, that's the one thing that would ruin this is it's the Bloodline. I'll give them credit that they held back and they didn't bring the Bloodline in, and that they made it. The two of them, you know, shook hands at the end, and there wasn't any kind of a, like, you know, clothesline at the end, or, you know, the Bloodline rushed in to mess that up. I'll give them, you know, credit for that. That at least was a good finish and something that, you know, thank God that was the main event of the 2 nights. So you wind up leaving on something positive. So my God, if it had been the Femi versus Lesnar match to be the final match of the 2 nights, people would be asking for their money back, I think, even though they already get the subscription through ESPN or whatever. But so anyway, It's been a while. I gotta say, I haven't really watched any WWE since WrestleMania. I'm kind of doing like you are, and I'm just waiting for the pay-per-views now to occur.
Well, you got to give him credit. Reigns and Punk and Reigns and Rollins were two great matches, so at least Reigns is coming through. He's not half-assing it, you know.
No, he is, you know, and he'll probably hold it for another, 2,000 days and have another 6 matches.
And if they're all great, I'm okay with it, but
oh, especially because they have that second Universal Championship, which is quote unquote the defended belt, and then you just have this as like the Roman Reigns title, which I don't know what I feel about that. But anyway, we're at the hour, so I don't want to charge you for a second hour.
yeah.
For the therapy, but I like your background. I like the backdrop that you got going. And next week we'll have, I don't know if we have anyone lined up guest-wise, but sometimes people drop by, so we'll have another great show for you next week. So until then, good night, everybody.